Alright, so I'm going to use the Holley 302-2 pan. It seems to work pretty well for the G-body from my research. Also works well with the Hooker Holley header mounts and the hooker mounts for the 4L80 transmission that I will be using. I'll show you all that in a later video when I install that, but right now we're going to get this whole pan on the engine, and I'm going to take you through the steps of using that over there, and we'll get it done. All right, as you can see, you got your pan, your baffle, pickup tubes, gaskets, bolts, plugs, old block off plate, and a set of instructions. We're gonna go through these instructions, make sure we get this thing on there right. All right, so the Holley pan is designed to be used with the F-body windows tray. Lucky me, I bought my 6.0 out of an Isuzu NPR truck and it had an F-body pan and an F-body windows tray on it, so I got lucky. But for some of you other folks, you can cut the pan down. But me, I don't have to, so I'm gonna show you how to put it on when you don't have to. All right, so the first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna flip this motor over. We're gonna get the old pan off. We're gonna pull the pickup screen off, get all the old parts off, and then we'll start installing the new pan. Pull the pin out. And rotate it over, be very careful. They are heavy. Let it go slowly. Flip it over. Probably a little bit of oil is going to drain out. I did get all the oil out of my motor, but probably a little bit of oil will come out. I like to flip it halfway over, slide my pan back in, and we'll take the oil pan off. All right, so we got all the parts off my motor. I pulled all the parts over there. I got all my parts here. I'm going to get the oil pan gasket off. One of the first steps you need to do is you need to drill out the rivets on the pan gasket. There's two of them. There's one next to the oil filter, and then there's one over here in this corner. I've already drilled this one out, and I'm going to drill this one out for you guys. Be very careful. Don't gouge up your oil pan gasket. And it's out. And what that does is it allows you to pull the pan gasket off and be able to put it back on your old motor, because I think it's okay to reuse it. I'm a little bit of a sloppy mechanic, so I'm gonna reuse what I can. All right, so one of the things I'm gonna do is I am gonna clean this oil pan gasket. I just like to get a rag, a little bit of carburetor cleaner, nothing to really get on seals. I hand wipe it. Just make sure everything's good and nice and cleaned up. That way when it goes back on, it seals good. All right, so one of the next steps is to pull the oil pickup tube and the O-ring and all that out. I've already done that, so I'm gonna show you that. I already got that out, and we'll get on to the next step. All right, so the next step, you gotta cut this little corner out of this pan right here. Holley provides you with a diagram, show you how much to cut. I'm gonna draw it with a paint marker, and then I'm gonna cut it. We'll get it taken care of. That's the next step. All right, so I'm gonna have to catch back up with y'all tomorrow. I gotta cut the old pan at work. Got a little spot I gotta clear out right there. So, as you can see, I got the old pan cut at work. I already went and test fitted it just to make sure it fit. It's on there pretty good. The notch is cut out. My old pan pickup tube's not rubbing. So I'm gonna go ahead and slam the oil pan on real quick, rotate the engine just to make sure that it's not touching. That's what Holley says to do, so that's what you need to do. And we're gonna do that right quick. All right, so one of the test fitting pieces you need to put on is this little bracket right here. It's the baffle for the oil pan. I usually just like to slide it in there. All right, so I'm just gonna test fit these pieces on here. Comes with 4 bolts that you gotta use. All the torque specs are in the Holley manual. I believe these are torqued to, I believe they're 18 foot-pounds, but I'll have to double check. All right, so we got the pan. It's a good idea to just put it on loosely, maybe a couple bolts. Make sure your pickup tube goes in there. Take a couple of bolts. No gasket for now. Just gonna test fit it. Do is get you a wrench, or if you still got your balancer on, whatever you can use, just make sure you rotate the engine a couple times. Just to listen and see if anything is scrubbing. I like to rotate it 2 or 3 times. As you can see, nothing's hitting, so this pan is pretty good. We're going to take everything off, put this gaskets on it, tighten up all the bolts, and we'll get this thing put on. We'll get it ready to rock and roll. All right, so a couple of those bolts we got to tighten up is right there. These bolts here, 18 foot-pounds. There's 8 of those bolts, and then we got 2 bolts right here. These are 106 inch-pounds right here. We'll get those tightened up. All right, so for those 8 bolts, like I said, it's 18 pounds. As you can see, I got my torque wrench set to 18 pounds. So these 2 bolts right here, they tighten down the oil pickup tube. When you install these 2 bolts, to make sure that you do not use the bolts to force in the little rubber bushing that's in there. Make sure you press that in by hand, then insert your bolts and torque them. All right, so I got my torque wrench, a little baby one, set to 106 inch-pounds. Tighten these bolts up right quick. So the next step is get the oil pan gasket on and get some RTV sealant on there in the corners like it says in the instructions. I get my front cover installed back on. I took it off, spray bombed it, make it look a little bit better than it did from the factory. Get that put on right quick. All right, so the next step, you want to get you some RTV gasket sealer. You want to put it in each corner. Just a little 5mm bead just to cover up where they join together right there on the front oil cover, and then on the rear pan cover. And then the next step, we'll get the pan put on, we'll torque the bolts down, and then after that, we got to put on the oil filter adapter and the oil block off plate. Unless you're running a turbo, you'll leave that off, and that's where you'll feed your oil from. Next step is to torque them down. You're gonna need 2 torque wrenches, I think. One to do the 18 foot-pounds for the bolts, those bolts. You need a smaller one to do 106 inch-pounds for these 2 bolts. So we'll get to that. All right, so we got all the pan bolts tightened. The next 2 things you gotta do is put in an oil drain plug, and you tighten it to 18 foot-pounds. I've already done that. Then you put in your oil filter adapter plug. It's 40 pounds. I've also already tightened it. And then the last thing to do that I save for last is I like to put the oil passage cover on. It comes with the gasket and whatnot. And we'll get that put on, and then we should be done. All right, so we're gonna put this oil passage cover on. As you can see, that gasket's just a hair bit beveled. It goes this way, and then you leave it kind of loose, button it up to the block, tighten that one up. Make sure you get your bolts nice and tight. These are 106 inch-pound bolts. That's what you're talking to. Get it tightened up. Get it nice and even. That way you get a good seal. Alright, then you torque them to 106 inch-pounds. Already got my torque wrench set. Alright, and you're good to go. Now this will work with most G-bodies that I know of. It will work with some Novas and some Camaros and Chevelles, but I'm putting a G-body and this will work. And you can tap it for turbo feeds down here where I put the passage cover, and you should be good to go. And that's how you install a Holley 302-2 oil pan used on G-bodies and Novas and Camaros and Chevelles. And this is Skinny Pedal Motorsports, and thank you for watching.